The name Hannibal Barca echoes through history, forever linked with the monumental Battle of Cannae. But what happened after that legendary victory? Did the Carthaginian genius fade? Absolutely not. 4 years after Cannae, as Rome painstakingly licked its wounds and rebuilt its legions, Hannibal remained a terrifying force on the Italian peninsula. He was a predator, patiently waiting, and his strikes were as swift, precise, and deadly as ever. The battles of Silarus and Herdonia, fought in 212 and 10 BC, are brutal testaments to the fact that even a recovering Rome was no match for Hannibal's tactical mind. These weren't just minor skirmishes. They were master classes in military deception and destruction that would send shockwaves through the Roman Republic all over again. Let's travel back to 212 BC, to the Silarus River. Rome was regaining its confidence. A new Roman army, led by the praetor Marcus Centenius Panula, was on the move. Centenius, a former senior centurion, was bold and perhaps a little overconfident in his force of roughly 16,000 men. His mission was to hunt down Hannibal, but in this deadly game of cat and mouse, Hannibal was always the cat. His superb network of scouts and spies quickly detected Centenius's advance. Instead of meeting him head-on, Hannibal saw an opportunity for a perfect trap. He scouted the terrain meticulously, identifying a stretch of land near the Silarus Rivera, narrow field flanked by woods and rough ground. It was the ideal killing box. He then positioned his army and simply waited for the Romans to walk into it. The Romans, blinded by their own numbers and eagerness to finally corner the infamous marched exactly where Hannibal wanted them to. They advanced into the open ground, their long columns stretching out, unaware that the woods on either side concealed thousands of enemy soldiers. Once the bulk of the Roman army was committed, trapped within the narrow terrain with no room to maneuver, Hannibal sprang his trap. On his signal, Carthaginian infantry burst from the woods, crashing into the long, exposed Roman flanks. Simultaneously, Hannibal's elite Numidian cavalry, which had been hidden, swept around the rear of the Roman column, completely severing any hope of retreat. The result was pure carnage. Chaos erupted in the Roman ranks, squeezed from the front, smashed from the sides, and blocked from the rear. The legionaries had nowhere to go. They were packed so tightly they could barely lift their shields or draw their swords. It was a perfect encirclement, a miniature Cannae executed with chilling efficiency. The battle, if you can even call it that, was over in less than an hour. Of the 16,000 Romans who marched confidently into that valley, only about 1,000 escaped the slaughter. The rest were killed or captured. Marcus Centenius himself fell fighting. The Battle of Silarus was a brutal, decisive ambush that proved Hannibal's tactical brilliance was as sharp as ever. He didn't just defeat the Romans, he annihilated them. You would think Rome had learned its lesson about underestimating Hannibal, but just 2 years later, in 210 BC, they made the same mistake. The target this time was the city of Herdonia, which had allied with Hannibal. A massive Roman consular army, numbering over 20,000 men and led by Consul Gnaeus Fulvius Centumalus, marched to retake the city. Fulvius was confident. His army was large, and reports suggested Hannibal was far away in a different region. But the reports were wrong. Hannibal had forced-marched his army with incredible speed, covering huge distances to arrive at Herdonia before the Romans. Once again, he was waiting. This time, he would use deception on an even grander scale. As the Romans set up camp near Herdonia, Hannibal hid the bulk of his army behind nearby hills. He sent out small, weak-looking detachments to skirmish with the Roman patrols, creating the illusion that his forces were few and disorganized. He even used local collaborators to spread rumors that he was on the verge of retreating. Consul Fulvius bought the deception completely. Eager for a glorious victory, he ordered his army to form up and advance in a traditional, straightforward battle line. He was marching into open ground, exactly as Hannibal had planned. As the Roman legions pushed forward against Hannibal's seemingly weak center, the real attack began. From their concealed positions, Hannibal unleashed his elite cavalry and a large portion of his infantry in a massive, sweeping flank attack. They slammed into the left wing of the Roman army with devastating force. At the same time, a separate force of Numidian cavalry, which had circled around the battlefield completely unseen, charged into the rear of the Roman camp, causing panic and chaos among the reserves. The Roman line, hit from the front, the flank, and the rear, completely collapsed. Order dissolved into a desperate scramble for survival. Once again, Hannibal had encircled a Roman army. Herdonia became another catastrophic disaster for Rome. Over 13,000 Romans, including the consul Fulvius himself, were killed or captured. It was a stunning victory, and it would be the last time Hannibal would win on such a devastating scale in Italy. Though often overshadowed by the sheer scale of Cannae, the battles of Silarus and Herdonia are critically important. They demonstrate that for years, Hannibal remained the undisputed master of the battlefield. Even as Rome's resources and manpower began to dwarf his own, his tactical genius could still conjure victories from thin air, turning Roman confidence into dust. These defeats were a harsh reminder that the war was far from over. They forced Rome to become even more cautious, to adopt the Fabian strategy of avoiding direct battle at all costs, and to tighten the strategic noose around Hannibal. While these were Hannibal's last great triumphs, they cemented his legend as a commander who could outthink, outmaneuver, and utterly destroy any opponent who dared to face him on an open field. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more untold stories from ancient history.